What is going on, community? Welcome back to Keeping Up with the Comics. Today, we are keeping up with not one, but two young Marvel heroes. So go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because today we are keeping up with Darkhawk, issue number 3 by Kyle Higgins and art by Juan Ramirez. I think I said that right. So anyway, just to catch us up, there is a new young hero who is taking up the Darkhawk mantle in this miniseries. Guy named Connor Young, basketball star in high school. Everybody assumes that he's going to college and he's going to make it big in the pros or whatever. But we find out in the first issue that he has MS. I'm not sure how it works, but it looks like he's been dealing with it for a little while and kind of keeping it under control, but it's getting worse and worse, and finally hits him really hard in the first issue. He has to deal with that. Also, we meet his best friend Derek, who plays heavily into this series, and once we find out about the MS, he kind of has to deal with his future not being what he thought it was. In the words of Too Short, it was all good just a week ago. But he finds out his future is not going to be great from now on. He's going to have to deal with this, and what we thought was going to happen is not going to happen. And at the same time, he happens into this amulet that's coming from, I'm assuming, from outer space, that basically turns him into Darkhawk. It was kind of quick, but the further we get in, the more I kind of like the development. And we also find out that there is a ring of tech thieves in the area, and once he runs into these tech thieves and kind of puts a stop to their plans on that night, the tech thieves go back and tell their superior that he's there, he stopped them. Superior wants the Darkhawk suit and tells one of the henchmen basically to go and get the Darkhawk suit. And we found out the henchman is, yep, you guessed it, his best friend Derek. That's kind of where issue number 1 left off. And issue number 2 kind of shows us Derek's and Connor's relationship and how they feel about the city of, is it Woodlawn? The city of Woodlawn that they're in. And what kind of leads Derek to be the person he is, running with the wrong crowd, doing the wrong things, life of crime kind of thing. You kind of get the feeling from Derek where that comes from. And I really dug the conversation they were having, along with the realities of what Connor has, which is MS and medical bills, and his father's not doing so well financially and at work, and all of these things piling up. So all of this real life stuff is happening that I really like, along with the superhero part. And then we have a big conflict in which it comes time for Derek to try to get the Black Hawk armor. And then we find out who Black Hawk is, and we find out who one of the henchmen is. I hope that's correct English. And they find out about each other. And Derek makes a choice, and that choice ends up biting him in the rear. I almost don't want to spoil what that choice was and how it worked out, but if you saw the cover for Darkhawk number 3, it didn't work out well for Derek. So what Darkhawk number 3 does is Darkhawk number 3 continues to tell us about Connor's health and the affliction and what's happening to him, and also has him not knowing what happened to Derek, but then once he finds out, I don't know if you've ever seen movies where like the young hero, gets his abilities, whatever, and then he wants to run off right away without knowing anything. He wants to go and confront the villain and all of this stuff. And that's kind of what happens. And it doesn't go particularly well for him. I will say he doesn't die, but he does get rescued. And that is one question that I'm going to bring up from this series, because I am enjoying this series. I think it's 5 parts, and this is number 3. And I really do dig this character. I think that if we are looking for the next young Marvel hero with a strong background and with great possibilities in the future, it may be Darkhawk. But I'm going to question a choice they made, because somebody saves him in this book. And does anyone see anything wrong with Miles Morales here? Yeah, unless this was, and it doesn't really give a time frame for when the story is being told, but unless the story was before unless the story was before unless the story was like last year and they're just writing it this year, something's wrong with Miles having the black suit. I assume that some people let this slide because that's the suit they want Miles to have, but I think that's my only complaint about the book, is that either it's written in a time in the past, which is okay, or someone made a mistake, which is less okay, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. In the meantime, Darkhawk number 1 through 3, especially number 3, actually number 2 and 3. Number 1, I found a little bit rushed, but by the time we get to 2 and 3, I really like this, like what's going on in the story. I really like the stakes in the story, and I want to see what's coming up next for this character. So yeah, I would suggest, if you can, to pick up this series and see where it goes. I'm hoping that this Darkhawk stays pretty grounded. I've been known not to be much of a cosmic guy, so if he ends up in space, we may or may not part ways, but as long as he's on Earth and not making me do the whole cosmic thing, I think I want to follow this character for a while. Speaking of Miles Morales, the next book I want to keep up with is Miles Morales Spider-Man, issue number 32 by Saladin Ahmed with art by Christopher Allen. And we're basically picking up on this story that started in the last book, where Miles and Tiana Starling were basically on a date on a rooftop, trying to find some peace, trying to figure out how they feel about each other. And then the third leg, also known as Taskmaster, comes and breaks the date up because he has a contract that he has to fill, and he is not going to go without. So we pick up here after Taskmaster actually kidnapped Starling, and we find that Miles is in a bit of a pickle, because Miles is in pretty bad shape. Our guy Taskmaster didn't cut him any slack. He got a couple of arrow shots in. Miles needs some medical attention, but Miles calls on a friend, because of course you get by with a little help from your friends, and he calls on another friend to help him find out where Taskmaster is and where he's taking Tiana, and how to get there. And they eventually find that Taskmaster's out on a barge, kind of in the water, where he thinks he outsmarts Spider-Man, because it's hard to swing out into a barge in the water. But he eventually gets there, basically, and it's kind of a straightforward fight between he and Taskmaster, and eventually Tiana, because she has, some extra strength in her suit, basically breaks free and helps out, and we'll call it a draw. Taskmaster has a watch and knows how long he has to the second to get Tiana to her location, and he knows, how, where he should be at what time and what progress he should have made. And if he doesn't make that progress, he knows he's automatically going to fail. And so at a certain point, he stops fighting because he knows that he is past the time that he can sensibly try and make it to whoever got the contract on Tiana and collect his money. And he is not going to sit here and waste time with all of you if he is not going to get money. And so Taskmaster kind of takes off. And I don't know if you've seen those memes on the internet with like Skeletor when he says something really funny and then he turns around and says, "Till next time," whatever. I felt like that when Taskmaster, who I guess stole some technology while he was at it from Tiana, kind of sprouts him some little wings and flies off, and it's kind of a "till next time, suckers" kind of thing that I thought was funny. And then we get to what I've been anticipating, because the next week's issue, we're gonna get a crossover between next month's issue. We're gonna get a crossover between Miles Morales Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man, centering around the Beyond Corporation. And of course, they're not wasting any time getting there. If you have been reading The Amazing Spider-Man after Nick Spencer's run, you kind of know what Ben Reilly is doing with the Beyond Corporation and what the Beyond Corporation thinks about anybody else using the Spider-Man title. That's right, Spider-Man doesn't own his own title right now. And the Beyond Corporation has come to tell Miles to cease and desist. And that's kind of where we are at the end of this story. There wasn't a whole lot to this story. It was still fun. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really deep. Nice two-parter to get us started back with the action, because we got a little slow after the Clone Saga. We slowed down a little bit, and this kind of jumped us back into the action. I'm looking forward to the crossover with Amazing Spider-Man and the Beyond Corporation and what they may have in store for Miles Morales. So that was Keeping Up with the Comics. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you saw something you liked. If you did enjoy yourself, go ahead, hit that like button. And if you are not subscribed, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and always feel free to leave comments. But as we always do at this time, love yourself, love others, and I and my scratchy throat will be back in a flash.